A call to order the Unalaska Common Council meeting, noting this meeting has been posted as required by law. Item 1, roll call.
Mayor Joe Chilson,
Excused absence.
Alderperson Benash,
Here.
Alderperson Every,
Here.
Alderperson Jertson,
Here.
Alderperson Olson,
Here.
Alderperson Bertrand, Alderperson Muth.
Here. Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I'm going to ask everybody to bear with me. I'm filling in for the mayor tonight, who's out of town, so if I'm looking over there, they're making sure I'm doing things the way we're supposed to. So, item 3, public input, limited to 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to come forward to give public input?
Good evening. Diane Wolf, 910 Orchid Place, Unalaska. First of all, I'd like to thank the current Unalaska Common Council members who serve. As someone who has been in your shoes in the past, I know the job you do. It's also a job I want to do again. I can honestly say that in my 58 years being on council and representing my 2nd district constituents and working with the fine women and men at Unalaska City Hall was the best job I've ever had. I am running for 2nd District Alderperson. I recently came out on top in the February primary, garnering almost 60% of the vote in a three-way race. I'm working hard toward the April 3rd election. I always say I may be outvoted, but I'll never be outworked. A little background on me for those who don't know me. As a past Common Council member, I served from 03 through 07 and again from 12 through 14. I currently chair the Technology Advisory Committee, of which I've served on for 14 years. I'm a proud Midwesterner, having been raised on a dairy farm in Illinois and also lived in the state of Minnesota and now Wisconsin. I've called Unalaska my home for the past 26 years. My husband and I have raised our daughter here where she was so fortunate to attend our nationally recognized Blue Ribbon Public School District, pre-K through 12. I'll be married 30 years next month. The heck? And I just realized I did not print page 2, so I will wing it. I've been involved with a number of projects with the City of Unalaska. I'm also the former president of the Welcome Wagon Club, former board member and officer of Fauver Hill PTO and Irving Perch PTA for 5 years, founder of the Unalaska Schools Food Pantry, former board member of both the DeCapo Band and the Unalaska Marching Hilltoppers Band Boosters, and a lead volunteer with the recent Unalaska School Board recall. Why did I just tell you those things? Because I want you to know I have an investment in this community. I just don't show up when it's convenient. I'm occasionally asked why I volunteer, why I want to serve as an elected official. To me, it's simple. I want to play a small role in something bigger. I want to try and make a difference in people's lives. It sounds like a lofty aspiration, but I find it quite simple. It simply takes listening to people. Since I was first appointed to the pool committee in 2000, I've been bit by the municipality bug to serve. I've continuously served on a committee since that time. I feel honored that 3 different mayors have had the confidence in me to place me on various committees. I've been a part of the acquisition of the waterfront property, had a lead role in planning and construction of the aquatic center, supported the library expansion and the Gunderson parking ramp, and the list goes on and on. I look forward to the possibility of being able to serve my former 2nd District constituents once again. When people hear the word Unalaska, I want them to know it's a great place to work, live, play, and retire. I'm Diane Wolf, and I'm running for 2nd District Alderperson. I thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Harvey Bertrand, 3334 Augusta Lane, Unalaska. And if you're turning your hymnals to item number 9D, it's a cemetery matter. My sister and I would claim that we grew up in a cemetery in Central Texas. We hoed and mowed and fought rattlesnakes and occasionally fell into a grave where the casket gave way. So anyway, I spent a lot of time literally in a cemetery, and my sister and I have 3 generations buried in this cemetery back in Central Texas, and it overlooks land that in 1885, my relatives homesteaded. My point is that every resident or every surviving person that knows or is relative to someone in a cemetery has a story. We consider a cemetery very sacred. And in terms of the one down the street, we know that it was sold to us in 2012 by Ray, now deceased, and Margaret Pelichek. And it's widely understood that this was going to be for expanding our existing cemetery. I would say it would be a breach of trust for us to sell that property now. And again, it's to a lot of people, it's the cemetery, and a vision of it is it's a temple, it's a sacred property. It represents incredible investment of time and energy. And at a time where government is not trusted greatly, this would be an example to unfortunately support their issues. Item 2, financially, it is not financially sound, the idea. Every grave that's opened, finances the service of the existing cemetery. And one final thing, where would we go for a cemetery? Do we build an island out in the like on Alaska? I mean, where would it go? Where would we build? Maybe go to La Crescent or whatever. The point is also that in 2012 we had 6 council people say yes to the purchase of that. Are we going to say that 6 people now on the council are going to say the sale of it? It seems like it'd be very unwise. And I don't know if you folks saw Karate Kid back in 1984. I think probably most of you have. You might remember Mr. Miyagi. He told
3
Daniel,
minutes.
put passion before principle, and if you win, you lose. And I think that applies here. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Tom Kennedy, 2841 Prairie Clover Place in Onalaska. I'm here tonight to speak against the sale of the property on Hickory Street and 13th Avenue South, just south of our cemetery. We, the cemetery committee, of which we have 4 of them here with us tonight, raised over $162,000 to make the cemetery look nice. And we were told at that time that that area was reserved for the cemetery, so it would absorb any growth that we had. The January council minutes indicated there could be anywhere between 50 and 30 years of use of the existing cemetery because of the increase in number of cremations, and 3 cremains could be interred in one plot. 30 years is not a long time, at least for some of us and most of us as I look around. It goes by pretty fast. But I would like to take back just about 70 years ago when our city fathers made a poor decision as far as I'm concerned. The school district at that time was governed by our city fathers. It wasn't a school district, it was the city of Onalaska. And they determined that the school district was too large. So they gave away the land north of our city, the northern part of our city, to the Holman School District, not thinking of what the ramifications of that would be someday. Well, it's a big ramifications, because as that part of Onalaska started to develop, the families wanted to send their children to the Onalaska School District. They're in the city of Onalaska. they were forced to go to the Onalaska, or the Holman School District, even though they lived in the city. Parents can attempt to get their children in the Onalaska School District, but through school choice, it's not a guaranteed thing that their children will be accepted. They could be denied. And if they do get in through school choice, there is no bus transportation for those kids. Even though they live in the city of Onalaska, all the buses coming in their area are taking those kids to Holman. So when there's a snow day like there was a few weeks ago, or ice day, whatever you call it, and they cancel school midday, these working parents have no way to go and get their children without leaving work. So that decision we're forced to live with for 70 years. I tried to make a correction to that when I was president of the school board in the 1990s, and Holman kept voting it down. Both districts had to approve it. Our district approved, Holman voted it down. So I think we're pretty much stuck with that. We don't want to be stuck with this decision to sell the property. That decision, 25 or 30 years from now,
3 minutes.
will cause us to look for property within the city. And if there is any, it's going to be very expensive. So where's our next cemetery going to be? Holman, West Salem, or Bryce Prairie? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Hutter, I'm the pastor at Onalaska United Methodist Church, and I'm delighted to be here with you tonight, but I'm going to also be slipping out pretty soon. I'm doing double duty this evening. We are hosting the Bethel University Wind Symphony over at the church right now, and this actually happened pretty recently. They are on tour. They stopped and were visiting with our high school band kids today and teaching them some things, and wanted to give a concert in the evening, and there was no space available at the school, and so as good neighbors, we offered our sanctuary, and we're very glad to do that. And it reminds me of Psalm 133, behold how good and pleasant it is when neighbors dwell together in peace and unity. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate about the Onalaska community. For those who would like to pray, I'm going to offer a short prayer. God, we are grateful that we live in a city and a community where we are neighbors. We don't always agree on everything, but we do live together in unity. Lord, we are blessed by the good people of this community, those who serve us in our fire and police and EMT departments, those who serve in city leadership, those who serve in our schools and our businesses. Lord, we ask that you would continue to watch over this community, bless us, continue us on a path of growth, help us to watch out for those who are less fortunate, that all may benefit from the blessings that you have shared with us. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Muller. I live at 538 6th Avenue North, and I'm the write-in candidate for the 2nd District City Council seat. I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself to those of you who may not know me yet. I know you have some very important issues to talk about this evening, and so I'll be respectful of your time, and I'll be brief. I've been visiting with many voters in the district these past few weeks, and there are two themes that keep coming up again and again. One is the safety of our community, and the other is concerns about how city government is currently being conducted. We are incredibly blessed here in Onalaska, and I thank the pastor for those wonderful words that he said. This community is filled with remarkable citizens, and they go out of their way to help a neighbor and strengthen our neighborhoods. It will be an honor to serve them and bring renewed enthusiasm and fresh ideas to their city government. In my day job as a professional software developer and technology consultant, I work with diverse teams of organizations in all types of organizations, and we find 21st century solutions that help their operations to become more efficient and effective. And I look forward to the opportunity to bring that same approach to the city of Onalaska. To my new friend Shirley on 4th Avenue, who's concerned about rising property assessments, and my friends Wanda and Terry, who live down the street from her, who are concerned about crime spilling over from nearby communities, and my new friends on Oak Avenue who are concerned about the turmoil within this building, I will work tirelessly to help build up this community, and I will resist all efforts that try to tear it down. So thanks for your time. Please remember to write in Chris Muller on Election Day. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.
Amy Twitchell, 1200 Pioneer Drive in Holman, Wisconsin. My name is Amy Twitchell. I'm just here to introduce myself. I am one of the candidates for La Crosse County Treasurer's Office. To give you a kind of a history of what has occurred is Sean Hanlon was the previous treasurer. He resigned as of September of 2017. His deputy was appointed the interim. The executive board took it to county on what they would like to do, if they'd like to appoint or have a special election. The county board chose to have a special election so the voters could choose who they would like to have as a county treasurer. The interim chose not to run. She is actually planning to retire the Friday after the election, which the election is April 3rd. And I am currently the assistant deputy. Sean did hire me. I have been with the county for 10 years now. I started with the Register of Deeds and then was the deputy county clerk for the county clerk, Jenny Dankmeyer. And then when the opportunity arose for me to take the position in the treasurer's office, I was able to take that position. Prior to working for the county, I've worked for the banking industry since I was in high school. So I know a lot of people think the treasurer's office just handles taxes, but we also handle a lot of the banking, transferring the wiring of the county. So it's not just taxes. People just think that that's it. I am married. I'll be married 20 years in September. We have 2 daughters, a junior and a 7th grader. And I graduated from UW Eau Claire with a degree in administrative management. So I'm just getting out, introducing myself to make people aware of the election on April 3rd, and I am running for county treasurer. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Second call for anyone wishing to give public input. Third and final call for anyone wishing to give public input. Carrie.
Your Honor, I have a letter that has been sent to us that has been requested to be read into the public input. So at this time, I'd like to read that. The letter is from Greg Luce, located at 120 Fairway Court. He addresses us. I really wanted to attend tonight's common council meeting, but had to be out of town for business. I was most interested to hear a discussion of Judge Brinkman's performance and behavior as our municipal court judge. I was out campaigning Sunday and heard some interesting stories about our failing and embarrassing city government. At one house, I heard from a resident that a family member of his received an OWI a couple years ago, paid his fine, and the OWI was never prosecuted, and it's not on his record. This is completely unacceptable. I'm sure this is just one of the hundreds of cases that got stuck in a box and ignored. At another house, I was told that Judge Brinkman had an inappropriate sexual relationship with his former court clerk, whom he now blames for the court's problems, and the city is being sued for sexual harassment because we fired her. I have talked to the State Department of Workforce Development, Equal Rights Division about this, and they are looking into the matter. I think it's important to note that in the city's recent rash of scandals, that Mayor Chilson and Councilman Bob Muth have known about these issues for a long time and did nothing. In the case of Chief Trotnick's misconduct, I believe they were both legally obligated to bring it to the Police and Fire Commission's attention. In the case of Judge Brinkman having inappropriate sexual relations with his clerk, we should expect Muth and Chilson, as elected officials, to handle this sort of misconduct swiftly to protect the city. It is clear to me that Mayor Chilson and Councilman Muth have been derelict in their duties, along with the council taking a vote of no confidence in Judge Brinkman. I am requesting that you also take a vote of no confidence in the mayor and Councilman Muth. If it passes, we should demand that they both resign. Signed, thank you, Greg Luce, 120 Fairway Court, Unalaska.
Thank you. Final call, anyone wishing to give public input. We'll see who races to the podium first.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Brinkman, Judge John Brinkman. I've been the judge for about 30 years here in Onalaska.
Could I have your address, please, too?
258 Coach Light Court South, Onalaska, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
John, you're wrapped up in a cord there. Thank you.
I did not plan on speaking tonight. However, in light of a letter that was just written, and on behalf of who I would consider to be another victim of that letter, I want to state unequivocally to this committee tonight, City Council, that at no time ever have I had a sexual relationship with an employee of the City of Onalaska who is mentioned in that letter. One of my clerks. Never happened. Again, I did not plan on speaking tonight, but I believe that since I'm here, if I remained quiet or absent, I feel that my absence would be misunderstood. There have been a few allegations that have been made. I have not received anything in writing, so I'm not here tonight to defend my character in general. I have always presented myself, if there are some specific concerns, I would address them. I would appreciate them if they would be in writing. I've heard some concerns through the Tribune, through the TV stations, radio stations, different concerns on different media. I would gladly address those, but I'd like them to be in some kind of a written format so that I can actually know what it is that the concerns really are. In my 30 years, I've been a part-time judge. Some of the concerns I've heard would literally not only require a full-time judge, but I've spoken with the head of the Wisconsin Municipal Court Association, and part-time municipal judges simply do not get involved in the financial aspects, taking care of and making sure that everything is entered properly. That's what a clerk is for. The clerk that we have had, basically from a payroll point of view, has received more than twice the income, salary, that I have as judge. Typically, I would come to court and I would hold the court matters, and I would dictate to the clerks what I want entered into the record. And speaking on behalf of the other municipal judges that I've spoken with.
3 minutes.
Okay, I'll just sum it up. I think that some of the accusations that are being made are unfair. Again, I would gladly speak to all of your concerns, but it would really be a lot easier if they were in writing so that I could address them all and there'd be some consistency. But I have always strived to do the best job I can for the city of Onalaska in those 30 years, and I am a member of Onalaska, and I've treated everyone.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I can't let you go farther than everyone. 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Hi, I'm Carl Wiggert. I'm a member of
Can I have your
French
n-
Island.
Could we have your name and address, please, sir?
Carl Wiggert. I'm not a paid liar.
Could I have your
I-
address, too, please?
Your address?
Yes, please.
2716 Bayshore. Can you hear me? Okay. There was a case where we were holding American flags and an 8-foot wooden cross, and we got tickets for that for freedom of speech on a public sidewalk. I think the judge could have stopped that. It's you know, against everything that America stands for. And the case is still going on. We won some of it. You know, you can't have a freedom of speech zone within so many feet. But I disdain my government. You guys live off the backs of the people, the hardworking people. But the amount of corruption that's being shown up in this area is terrible. I expect more from my money. I think you ought to get out of the grave business. I don't think you should be competing with other businesses. And not only do I not have confidence in the government in Alaska, but I certainly do not have confidence in the judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? I don't want to make sure I don't, or I miss somebody. Okay, that portion is now closed. Item 4, report from the mayor. The mayor has no report. Recommendations for approval and/or possible action from the following committees, commissions, boards. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business in the non-consent agenda. Is there anyone wishing to remove anything from the consent agenda? There being none, we'll move on to item, I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay, we need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion. Motion by Jim Benash to approve, second by Alderman Jim Olson to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered. We'll move, I'm sorry, could you get mic up?
Do we have option to pull out items, Mr. Chairman, from the consent agenda?
We just said that. That's what we just went through.
That's what we're doing now?
We did it. We did it. I asked all of them if there's anything you wish to pull, and there was no response.
I would like to back up on that and then offer,
Taken the vote to pass the consent agenda, so I'd have to ask our attorney for clarification.
sure.
Sean?
It would only be if there's a reconsideration of the previous motion to approve the consent agenda. Otherwise, the meeting would move forward.
Make a motion for reconsideration of the consent agenda.
Second, I'm sorry.
We have a motion to reconsider the approval of the consent agenda. Second, we have a second? Second by Jerry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Aye. No. I will go aye.
So we have 4 to not.
3.
1, 2, 3. Oh, 3. We have 3 noes and 3 yeses.
Why don't you do a roll call vote?
Roll call vote.
Okay, roll call vote on the reconsideration. Alderperson Every.
Aye.
Alderperson Muth.
No.
Alderperson Olson.
No.
Alderperson Bertrand. No. Alderperson Jurtson.
Yes.
Alderperson Benash.
Aye.
I guess this is a first for me, 3-3.
The motion fails because it did not have it did not
Not
have
have
a
a more-
majority vote.
Majority. We'll move on to the non-consent. Item 6. Recap, there was nothing pulled. Item 7, Financial Committee. Vouchers, item A. The following are a list of monies expended since the last common council meeting dated February 13th, 2018, in the dollar amount of $2,583,949.38.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion approved by Alderman Every, second by Alderman Jurgensen. Discussion. There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Item B, Resolution 12-2018, awarding the sale of $3,625,000 in general obligation corporate purpose bonds.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion approved by Jerry,
Second.
second by Jim Benash. Will, do you want us to approve it? Yes, yes.
Good evening, I'm Brad Vigood with Baird, financial advisor to the city. There was a packet handed out before the meeting that summarizes the results of the bond sale, and I can walk through that and certainly answer any questions. The bond sale bid tally is summarized on the top of page 2. City was in the market this morning up until 10 o'clock soliciting bids for the general obligation bonds of $3,625,000. You can see that 4 bids were received. Of those 4 bids, the low interest cost provider is BOK Financial Securities with a true interest cost of 3.098%. That's in line with the projections or the estimate that I provided to the Finance Committee back in January, which time the projection was 3.11%. The details of the resolution are on the following page. The resolution for the corporate purpose bonds is on the left-hand side of the page. I didn't touch on the note anticipation notes. That's the next item on your agenda. If you'd like, I can cover that now. Otherwise, come back to that once there's a motion made.
I'll make a motion to approve that agenda item, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion on already? We had not voted on, correct? We have a motion on the floor already to approve and second.
Good question whether you want Brad to go ahead and discuss both items together at this point in time.
It's one financing package. That's why I'm suggesting I could discuss those together if you'd like. Is that okay?
Why don't you go ahead and then we'll,
So back on page 2, we also, the city solicited bids for the note anticipation notes this morning up until 10 o'clock. 2 bids received on that issue. The low bid of 2.07%, and that's below the projection from January of 2.27%. Page 3 provides a summary of the resolutions that you'll be considering. These are both consistent with the information that was previously provided. One change that I would point out, the corporate purpose bonds now have a first call feature, a first call date of October 1st of 2026. That's 2 years earlier than what we had talked about back in January. So that's to the city's benefit. It provides additional flexibility, and there was no additional cost to provide that flexibility. The winning bidder for both of these obligations, BOK Financial Securities, and they're out of Dallas, Texas. I've updated the financing plan. The financing plan is in line with the expectations that were discussed back in January. Actually, the total cost is less than what we had discussed. And in terms of the combined debt service, that is your existing payments plus these new payments, this is structured to allow room to layer in future financings. And then finally, the complete rating report from Moody's Investor Service is attached. I won't walk through this line by line, but I would point out that Moody's affirmed the city's AA2 bond rating, which is a very good credit quality rating. They've also assigned a rating for the note anticipation notes, and that rating is called MIG 1. That stands for Municipal Investment Grade 1. That's the highest bond rating that Moody's assigns for that type of debt, for that short-term obligation. Some of the credit strengths Moody cites is the city's expanding tax base, your strong financial operations, trends of surpluses, and ample reserves all speak very positively to the leadership here in the city in terms of managing your credit. So with that, I'd be glad to go into additional detail or answer any questions.
Do you have any questions? Thank you, sir. So we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 20-2018 to award the $3,625,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds. All those in favor signify, I'm sorry.
Your Honor, on these next two items, we will need a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, correct. Roll call.
Alderperson Jurtson,
Yes.
Alderperson Olson,
Aye.
Alderperson Bertrand, Alderperson Muth,
Aye.
Alderperson Every,
Aye.
Alderperson Benash.
Aye.
Motion approved. Item C, Resolution 13-2018, authorizing the issuance of $1,570,000 general obligation promissory notes and the issuance and sale of $1,570,000 anticipated notes in anticipation thereof. I'll need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ron,
Second.
second by Jim Olson. Discussion. There be none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call, I'm sorry, roll call.
Alderperson Every,
Aye.
Alderperson Jurtson,
Yes.
Alderperson Olson,
Aye.
Alderperson Benash,
Aye.
Alderperson Muth,
Aye.
Alderperson Bertrand.
Thank you. Item 8, Personnel Committee. Review and consideration of changes to the Adoni Networks contract for 2018. This item has been asked to be withdrawn from the agenda. It'll be taken up next month. Item B, review and consideration of authorization to replace, post, and advertise for 1, administrative manager position, 2, police chief position, 3, fire chief position. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Olson to approve,
Second.
second by Alderman Benash. Discussion. Alderman Every.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is one of the items that I wanted to talk about anyway, so thank you, I appreciate that. My question is about these position moves. First of all, I think it's untimely to be doing this. I think we should wait until the new chief comes in. The second thing is I'm not clear as to what the money consequence is. I didn't see anything in there about what this would cost us. The other thing is this going to involve hiring more FTEs, more full-time equivalent people? I didn't see anything in there about that. So I'm reluctant to approve this, not because of any other reasons. Those are the ones, and I think they're important reasons, so I thank you for.
Thank you. Hope, did you want to address any of those?
Thank you. Typically for the recruitment costs, it may vary, and we won't have the actual cost of that. We always try to stay in budget with the vacated salaries and those kinds of things, so it's usually not an issue. What I have found more and more so is that the advertising for new positions, these are replacements, we're getting more traffic from online systems instead of actually putting it in the newspaper. That's something that the Police and Fire Commission would need to make for the police chief and the fire chief. And then we would work with the department, the acting department head right now in the police department to determine where they wanted to post that.
I'm not concerned about the chiefs. I understand we budgeted their positions into 2018, and of course, we'll use that money, I'd assume.
That is correct. Those positions are budgeted, as well as the administrative manager position. That is a replacement for a
Okay,
retirement.
so that's the new one, but that was budgeted for.
That has been budgeted. We had somebody existing in the position, but they have retired effective February 1st.
Then when you did the realignment of these positions, is there, did we add duties to anybody or subtract duties from anybody, or did we just realign them?
The job descriptions were changed based on what the job duties felt that they needed to be. Some of the things that were added were more of the open records request items under the administrative manager, so.
So did this get run by police and fire and unions?
Police and fire does not make approval for, basically it's a non-sworn position. This is just an administrative manager position. So if it were a police officer or a firefighter, they would have some say in that. But they don't with the administrative manager position because it's not a sworn position. They don't have purview over that position.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Jerson.
Thank you. Is it the same for the professional standard sergeant?
Could you put your mic near you
Is
there,
it the
Ron?
same for the professional standard sergeant and sergeant? We've got money budgeted. Those aren't new.
Well, all those positions are currently in the budget right now. It was just a matter of making some changes as to supervision, and then with the administrative manager position, making some changes to that job description, and then just ironing out those concerns at the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting. So, but that position's not being advertised for, it's currently in this, it's filled. So we're not asking to fill those positions.
Thank you.
No further questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Item 9, Board of Public Works.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item A is review and consideration of bids received for the 2018 utility project. Tonight, I distributed the bids received this morning at 11 a.m. for the 2018 utility project. We did have 5 responsive bidders for that project listed in your handout tonight. Staff is recommending that we award the bid to the low responsive bidder of Gerke Excavating for the base bid included with bid alternate 1 and 2 for a total bid of $1,708,611. This budget was included within the 2018 capital improvements budget for $1,925,000.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve by Hart.
Second.
Second by Ron. Discussion and questions. There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Item B, review and consideration of bids received for 2018 miscellaneous concrete projects. Jared.
Thank you, Your Honor. Included tonight, I handed out the bids received for the 2018 miscellaneous concrete project, which were open today. We did receive 3 responsive bidders. The low bidder was Steiger Construction for a total of $85,087.50. We did have $120,000 budgeted through the stormwater operating budget and the 2018 capital improvements budget for this project.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ron, second by Harvey. Discussion. Ron.
We've used Steiger before.
Yes, we have. Yep.
Happy with them?
Yep. We've used, Steiger has been multiple bids over the last 20 years in the city. We have, all 3 bidders have been awarded bids over the years, but we have used all of them listed.
Thanks, Jared.
Any further questions? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Item C, review and consideration of bids received for 2018 urban forestry project. Jared.
Included tonight, I've handed out the bids received for the 2018 urban forestry program. We did receive 2 bidders. The low bidder was Hoffman McNamara Company for a total bid of $36,889.00. This, once again, is budgeted through the 2018 stormwater budget and the 2017 capital improvement budget, which had urban forestry monies that were not used in the 2017 year, and the 2017 utility project to plant trees along the project that was constructed last summer. Staff's recommendation is for approval.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ron. Second by Harvey. Discussion, questions. Jerry?
Could I have those figures again, Jared? What was the amount you took from 2017 to add to the Hoffman bid?
Our figures that we had in the original budget totaled 49,300. That included 10,500 from the 2017 utility project, 9,800, which was funds from the 2017 urban forestry, 7,000 from this 2018 stormwater utility budget, and 22,000 from the 2017 EAB tree replacement, for a total of 49,300. We're only expending a contract of 30,889.
Didn't we have a grant in there somewhere too, $2,500?
That is for we had a grant to pay for the urban forestry update, and then for some EAB work on city park trees. That is not part of this contract.
Thank you.
Any further questions? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Item D, review and consideration of city-owned lands at 300 13th Avenue South, designated for future cemetery expansion. Jim?
Well, since I brought this up, the whole idea behind it was to see if we could increase the tax base. And obviously, the citizen input is very important to what is going on. If the citizens of Onalaska want to continue to expand the cemetery beyond its useful life, which may be 20, 25 years, you know, that's fine. The intent was never to do anything with the current cemetery because that holds the history and it's a park. So the idea of an expansion to the cemetery was more in line with what may be happening in the future. If the citizens of Onalaska don't want to sell the land, they want to keep the land, and for possible use as a cemetery, so be it. So I guess it'll be up to the citizens to decide if they want to sell it or they don't want to sell it. It's not up to this body. We're here to take the comments and then use them towards constructive use of the city property. And that's all it was.
Jim?
And I echo Jim's comments. That's the way it should be. So, thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Jerry?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too have been known, as you know, I do believe the cemetery should be a separate entity out of the city's control, and I've always believed that. But this property should remain, as far as I'm concerned, with the cemetery, just for the purpose of the things that we've heard tonight. This is a piece of ground that's hallowed by everyone up here, and it'd be a travesty to sell that piece off, even if we don't seem to need it for another 30 years. I think we should keep it. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I'm going to speak on it, so if I have Senior Alderman take it. I appreciate Jim, Senior.
Thank you.
I appreciate Jim Benash bringing up the idea to take a look at that, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to go along with some of our comments. I want to see that remain cemetery. The council that bought that land for that purpose back then, I agree with. I would like our cemetery, if it's only going to survive another 25, 30 years, that's a short period of time. And I think if the expansion just sort of fits right in with everything that's already there. So just my opinion, but I think the council is correct in getting the land for future expansions for the cemetery and to keep it a cemetery. Thank you. Can I have my gavel back?
Yes, you get it.
Thank you. Item 10, Plan Commission. Jim Benash, the mayor's absent.
Resolution 11-2081, final resolution to vacate and discontinue a portion of the alley from Locust Street to King Street between 4th Avenue North and 5th Avenue North, City of Onalaska, La Crosse County, Wisconsin. This resolution will replace in entirety the resolution adopted at the February 13th, 2018 meeting.
Make a motion to vacate.
Motion by Mr. Gersten, Second by Jerry. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed? No opposed.
Item 11, discussion on the joint municipal court. Item A, report from city administrator discussing on joint municipal court agreement and ordinance. Eric.
Thank you, Alderman Muth. Including in the packets are two exhibits. These are the existing agreement, first and foremost, as well as the ordinance as the second document adopted by each of the communities involved back in 2003. The purpose of this conversation here is to highlight some of the language within those agreements and the ordinance that would impact some of the conversation we've heard, first and foremost about removing the city from the court. So briefly, Sean has a commentary he'll make under Section C. I'll let him cover that, so I'll keep my comments brief. But if you look through the agreements, there's multiple places where the City of Onalaska is identified by name within the agreement. And as one possibility of removing it from the language, ourselves from the court, the language still would exist. So for example, under 3B on the second page, the City of Onalaska has role with position of the court clerk and other court employees, final authority to choose the clerk of court, other court employees. That would continue even if we pulled ourselves out. I can't imagine the other members being satisfied with the city having some of that control. Further on, the bottom of that paragraph B, City of Onalaska shall cause appropriate accounts to be established. And as you continue on, it talks about the process and procedure for the financial aspects of the court, which again lie within the City of Onalaska. Under Section 4 of the next page, City of Onalaska shall determine the wages and benefits of such clerk. Judge's salary, the City of Onalaska, after consideration of the recommendation of the municipal court committee, shall set the salary of the judge. So there's multiple examples within the agreement itself that we can pull ourselves out, but this language would still be there. There's nobody else identified as that area there. All forfeitures, penalties, assessments, and costs shall be collected by the City of Onalaska. Again, there's another section there. And then finally, if we move on to the end at Section 8, Contract Administration and Amendments, any changes to this must be done by a majority of all governing bodies. So to some degree, we're tied into the agreement unless we get a majority consent by the rest of the members of the court. And then number 9, the termination. Very end of that is that no member pursuant to Section 75501 sub 2 Wisconsin statutes may abolish the joint municipal court. So actually abolishing it would be very difficult. Moving on to the ordinance, which is the next exhibit. Much of the language is repeated there. There's 3 sections there I found basically new regarding the city. One was under, I believe it's E on the second page. The training and compensation of said court of the clerk shall be determined by the City of Onalaska. Next page, K. The joint municipal court's location shall be in the City of Onalaska City Hall. So again, pulling it out, we're still hosting the court one way or the other. And then at the very end of the page, again, Section 3 is that all municipalities shall enter to a mutual acceptable agreement. So the ordinances themselves also reflect the agreement, which must require majority consent to change that we are in. The other items I want just to point out within the agreement itself and the ordinance, if you go back to the first, the agreement again, it's a slightly different topic. Some questions as to authority within the court itself. Under section, at the very bottom of that first page, organization. Except for matters required by statute to be determined by the representative government bodies or member municipalities, and those members are identified within this agreement here.
What page are you on, Eric?
Back to the agreements again, so the first two
You
exhibits.
got numbers on these? I mean, we're all fumbling around here looking for what
The first one, so the title is Agreement for the Establishment and Operation of the Joint Municipal Court. Immediately after the colored pictures.
11A up in the right hand.
2 are marked at 11A, unfortunately. Yeah. So one is just the agreement, and the other one's the ordinance. I'm back on the agreement. except for matters required by statute to be determined by the respective governing bodies or member municipalities, and those are also identified in the agreement itself. Moving on, the general operation of the court shall be by the judge and the municipal court committee. So the judge does oversee the court itself. The language is within the agreement here. It also references the municipal court committee, which then you flip over to section 3. The back side of that, there's a number 2 on the bottom of that page. B, powers and duties. Municipal court committee shall have general control over the operation of the court, except where such control is specifically granted to the judge or the governing bodies by statute, in which case municipal court committee shall be a recommending body to the judge or governing bodies. So again, highlighting the fact that the city does not have general control. The municipal court provides guidance, but the judge himself is responsible for the general oversight within the court itself. Next page over, it's got a 3 in the bottom of the page under section 4 of the clerk. It refers to pursuant to section 755.10 of Wisconsin statutes. Well, it's referencing the clerk duties, which are itemized elsewhere in the agreement. That section there references that the work responsibilities of all court personnel works under the judge's authority. So again, there's another reference there, that it's not the city, it's the judge has that ultimate responsibility and authority over court personnel. Any questions on the agreements that I can answer? Again, Sean, you'll have some other commentary in a little bit.
No question. Do we need a motion on this, Carrie, or just accept, this is just information, correct? Okay. Any questions? Alderman Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as I read this then, number 9, any member municipality may withdraw from this agreement by giving notice in writing to the municipal court committee no later than September 30th of any year. Thank you.
Further questions? There being none, we'll move on to item B, report from Finance Director, financial analysis of a joint municipal court. Fred.
Enclosed in your packet this evening, I have 4 exhibits, 1 through 4. This information has been, over the period, I went back 5 years, listing this information has been discussed at the joint municipal court meetings. It's also been discussed at the Finance and Personnel and Common Council through the budget process, showing the city of Onalaska what its share has been. For example, in Exhibit 1 represents the revenues. On an average of 56% of the revenues brought in through the municipalities, towns, cities, and villages that participate is brought in through the city of Onalaska. If no one has any questions on Exhibit 1, otherwise I'd probably do each one separately. I just move on unless you have any questions at all.
No question? Move on to item C. Report from City Attorney, cost and procedure of circuit court alternative. Sean.
The clerk is handing out a 2-page handout. I'm going to give a real brief summary. I was asked to address 2 questions. One is with respect to withdrawing from or disbanding the municipal court. We've already addressed in the agreement how to withdraw from municipal court. Nonetheless, even if the city withdraws from the municipal court to disband the municipal court, that can only occur at the end of the judge's term. There's no other time in which a municipal court can be disbanded. That's essentially what the first page says in a lot of other words. Yes.
So the court itself can continue, it's just that we would not be a member.
Correct. The second question that I was asked to address was the cost of the financial effect of transferring jurisdiction of the city's tickets to circuit court. And I'm going to address that with 5 points. They're laid out on the second page. It's a lot of text to really say 5 things. The first thing is the city will receive $5 less per ticket towards the general fund. currently for, I'm gonna use a speeding ticket, a 1 to 10 over speeding ticket, lowest level speeding ticket as the example throughout this, okay? The city has that as a $98 ticket, $99.80 ticket. The city receives $30 of that ticket. The city also receives $33 to apply to the joint municipal court. So we receive court costs of $33 and $30 which goes to the general fund. If that same ticket, if the city withdraws and has the circuit court take care of that ticket increases to $172 for the person who was speeding. The city collects $25 from that ticket. So the city does not receive the court costs, obviously, because we're not handling it. The statutory court cost for circuit courts is much higher than for municipal courts, so the person who receives the ticket pays more and the city receives $5 less. The additional financial effects are that the city would be required to have a police officer deliver all tickets to the county clerk of court. Also, there need to be a police officer available for every court appearance, including every initial appearance. Currently, in municipal court, all the initial appearances are bunched together. They're able to happen at one time. That is not what happens in circuit court. In circuit court, they're whenever they get scheduled. So there is a discernible cost, police cost, and frankly, attorney cost for moving from municipal court to circuit court. The final thing is that the city removing itself from municipal court does not affect parking citations. The city will still be solely charged with following up on parking citations for both collections and any follow-through. Those do not go to circuit court.
So if in 2020, we decided to disband at that time, we could set the court system up to reflect the dollars that we are doing right now.
Could you just repeat that? Sorry.
The way we're collecting our dollars now, if we disbanded in 2020, would we be able to reform a court that would give us the same dollars?
The city, if the joint municipal court was to be disbanded, then the city could adopt a municipal court for just the city of Alaska. That is allowable, yes.
That is what I was looking for. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, we would recoup our 60% of the $39,000 that we paid to the judge, wouldn't we? We're not going to be paying it to the municipal court. That would be one of our expenses. Our share is 60%. Is that correct?
Right now, that is, it's very clear that is covered by the court costs. The city doesn't pay any general fund money to the municipal court.
Wherever it comes from, we're not paying the municipal judge. We're paying somebody else. So the final figure should reflect what would your expected total income be if you went to your own court, if you went to circuit court, or if you stayed with this court. I would think those are the things that we want to know.
The only thing that affects the city's bottom line budget is the amount which goes to the general fund. The difference will be $5 per ticket. And the reason why I say that is the city currently does not pay anything from the general fund to support municipal court. Correct?
Correct. The court, actually, that's Exhibit 4 on Fred's documents there. The general fund actually receives $92,540 from the court right now. Nothing goes towards the court, it comes from the court.
What was that figure?
$92,540 in 2017 was received to the general fund from the court. as Sean was walking through the process, we receive $30 from a ticket, and then there's a $33 on top of that, which goes to cover the court costs that the defendants are paying, not the city.
So based on the same number of tickets, what would we receive from the circuit court? That's the question.
It would be 5/6 of the 92,000. I just can't do that.
Yeah, that's all right.
I just
That's
can't do
okay.
that in my head.
But our costs,
Considerably.
That's what I was getting at.
Considerably
Just a minute,
less.
just a minute, just a minute.
We would, yes, we would receive less, and our cost, we would incur costs we don't have now, though, from the general fund.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Sean, maybe explain why all the municipalities got together and formed this municipal court in the first place. It was to save money, wasn't it? Wasn't it for more funds would go back to the jurisdictions and also reduce the amount of activity down at the circuit courts, if I remember right?
That predates me, but I do know that what I have both been told and in speaking to other joint municipal courts throughout the state, which is which is somewhat the standard in the state, is that the two main reasons are that from a cost perspective, each of the participating governmental agencies does better with the joint municipal court because the overall cost is lower and they tend to have higher collections. A greater issue is the timeliness. In municipal court, every ticket that comes in has a priority to it. In the circuit court, the tickets are of the lowest priority. They get scheduled last, they get bumped the most. I represent some municipalities north of here who are in a different county, and our normal time period for dealing with a speeding ticket is 8 months. That's the initial appearance.
Jerry?
So the bottom line, as you just said, is if you're not collecting the money, it doesn't make any difference. There's a significant amount of money now that we're not collecting. That's what I'm saying. So collections do make a difference. The timeliness is fine, but
Yes.
I've also heard that municipal court system is on the decline in the state. Is that true?
I've spoken to a number of people who are involved in municipal courts, and they do keep track of that. That's not what they told us. In fact, when we asked them some questions to get ready for this, they asked us if we do disband to tell them because they track that, and they don't have a large record of that happening.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Ron?
You said that the tickets are more collectible in a joint municipal court. That's, in our case here, we've got a number of boxes that they weren't collected. And I realize that's all been worked out to a certain degree, but the reality is it wasn't perfect. And I realize now, looking at the figures, that the circuit court is not the way to fix this problem. I would also say that one of the problems that we've got, it keeps going back to the same spot. It's an office area that's not running well. Pretty disappointed yet. But I thank you for the information. That helped me out immensely.
Thank you. Move on to report from Council President, that would be me. Item A, public comments made by individual council members. I brought this on board because I noted a news release that was on Channel 8 in which Alderman Jurtson was interviewed, and he made some statements that were not correct in the news report. You commented recently where you commented, speaking for the entire Common Council, referenced the joint municipal court. First, you do not have the authority to speak for the entire council. If you want to speak for yourself, that's certainly okay, but when you went on the news media, you spoke for the council. Unless the council authorizes you to do so, you cannot. The news report said a survey of joint municipal court records discovered dozens of citations or dozens of boxes of citations that were never processed. This is false. That is not correct. Also, if Judge Brinkman doesn't resign, or if there's no recall election, Onalaska says it will leave the joint municipal court system. None of that action was never approved by this council. No one from this council ever brought up the idea that we were going to leave. Finally, in your interview at the end of the 2018, you said if we choose as a body, we would choose not to re-up. We, at least the city of Onalaska, would be out of it, and then it would be up to the other municipalities to figure out what they want to do with Judge Brinkman. Again, this was not a decision by the city council. That statement was not true. It's misleading. And I think it made a lot of people, I know it made the news media, assume that we were preparing to leave joint municipal court and that decision had been made, and in fact, it had not. And it's not a discussion. I'll move on to item B. Discuss city administrator, city attorney report from February 13th, 2018, Common Council meeting regarding joint municipal court. And I guess that just goes in with everything else that's been covered tonight. And the report by our city administrator was handed out. Every council member had that report of what was going on. And I'm still disturbed with the fact that we keep getting the report that there's 30, 40, dozens and dozens of boxes of citations that were never processed, never covered. That is not true. What happened was those are boxes, many of which, 20 of which were dead files. They were files being ready to be disposed of that were down there. Other boxes contained material that was just thrown into boxes from the former clerk, and included everything from Tupperware items to calendars. It was all thrown into one box. Our current staff has now gone through all of that material, separated it, found those materials that were handled improperly, and we came up with, as I understand, 177 cases of citations where we don't have either disposition or we have some problems with. Now, that's a 10-year span. So I keep seeing this exaggeration, citizens coming to the podium claiming we got dozens and dozens and thousands of boxes and thousands of citations that were never handled properly. That is not true. We have gone through that. Hildy is still continuing and finishing up with that. All those 117 will still be addressed and taken care of. So the public's been given a image that is way beyond what is in reality.
Mr. Chairman?
Move on to item, no, this is not discussion.
It says discuss.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for the information, guys. Appreciate that. It's a difficult decision that's coming down the line, but one we're going to have to make. And hopefully we can keep looking at that. Sometimes I think we put the almighty dollar ahead of what's good for our almighty citizens. And I don't want that to happen. And so I thank you for the information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Ron.
What it boils down to, Bob, is leadership here. This information's been getting toyed around since July. I do not understand how we can be sitting here in March of 2018 and find out that we got Tupperware in our boxes. To the point where I just really find hard to believe that we're dealing that way. We're coming down. We've got you sitting here chairing the meeting. Our mayor is absent tonight. And I just honestly believe that this discussion would have been much different with somebody else sitting there in that seat. And I just really have a major problem with the leadership here. If we knew this information, when did we know it, and why are we finding it out tonight? Thank you.
If we go back, in fact, it was me that talked to the city administrator to look into this. And it's been a long process. We had to go through these boxes, first of all, to find out what's going on. What the problem is how it's lack of organization, lack of filing, lack of keeping track of things. I mean, that's been an ongoing thing that I think we've seen for a long time. And I think it's got to the point where our city administrator looked into it, and we've gone from there. That's why it got going. It's not that we ignored it, and I'm profoundly disgusted with the letter that we received tonight. It was totally uncalled for, false. This group here did look into it. We have gone after it. We've doing everything possible to straighten this all out, and to have such a letter is disgusting. Harvey. Well, I think we're resolving the problem. That's what's going on, and we're just coming to the end, and the city administrator, the current staff over there have cleaned up the mess and getting it up to date, and between the finance department, the city clerk's office, the group of people that we have in there now, this is all getting straightened out, and shortly it's going to be doing what it's supposed to do. Most likely, it's doing what it's supposed to do right now. But I guess I'm just sick and tired of these false accusations, these exaggerations. It's disheartening to hear some of the comments based on no facts whatsoever. And it's just got to the point. I'm glad we're coming to the end. Jim.
Well, it has been quite a while that we've come to the understanding that there was a problem with the joint municipal court. Now, I know for myself, as a young age, we're all taught to accept responsibility for our own actions. And you take those responsibilities with you when you get into a leadership role. And with that leadership role comes criticism. And there's been constructive criticism about how things should be handled in a joint municipal court. And I hope the judge takes that to heart. Now, the personnel that are there have been given instructions and the tools necessary to improve how the joint municipal court works. The other thing that we're still waiting on is to improve it with software. I think that software is going to help the paper flow in the process. So those are things that are going to help that joint municipal court improve. Now, as far as there was a statement made about a recall, it's useless if you don't have a viable candidate. There isn't one. As far as the joint municipal court, I would not approve of us leaving the joint municipal court. You're going to have to make up that money somehow, and for those of you who don't want to raise your taxes and you want this to go into another venue, it's not going to help. And in all likelihood, if the other communities decide to stay in the municipal court, it's going to be held right here anyway. We just won't have any control over it. So, in my opinion, any measures, symbolic or otherwise, don't solve anything. And tonight, we're going to be having this no confidence vote. I'm thinking of the people who work at the joint municipal court, and I'm thinking about our people who are also in the joint municipal court system with us, the other municipalities. They're waiting for us to make some kind of resolution to this issue. Now, the judge is very much aware of what the workflow and what we anticipate, or I should say, what is expected. And he's going to have to supervise. I think he's aware of that as well. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not interested in leaving the joint municipal court. The conversation should end this evening. We need to see how things work. Everything is going to be well scrutinized. Everybody knows about it. So I guess we need just to go on to the next part.
Thanks, Jim.
Anything further? Move on to item 13. Alderperson Every and Alderperson Jurson, Resolution A. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess we've heard all there is to be said. Just to point out again once more that we can.
Excuse, Jerry, could you read the item on there first,
Sure,
please,
yeah,
so they
yeah,
know,
sure.
they know what's.
You bet. We can lead the municipal court if and when we decide to. The item that we have under discussion, folks, is the Resolution 14-2018, Resolution of No Confidence, Cooley Region Joint Municipal Judge. The resolution is a little bit lengthy, but I just wanted to read some parts of it. And it says in the fourth whereas city staff has raised concerns with the management and responsibilities of the municipal court clerk's office throughout the past 12 years, and were met with an unwillingness to discuss the issues related to the municipal court clerk's job performance and job functions. Whereas recent events, including but not limited to the termination of the longstanding municipal clerk assessment and review of various municipal court financial and court records, have solidified the city's concerns with respect to the management of records and the ability of the Cooley Region Municipal Court to function. So, whereas the failure of the municipal court judge to supervise the municipal court clerk personnel and to engage in a cooperative management effort with the city of Onalaska has resulted in the harm and safety and security of the city of Onalaska residents, financial and economic harm to the participating municipalities, and resulted in poor quality of service by the Cooley Region Joint Municipal Court. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Onalaska gives the Cooley Region Joint Municipal Court judge a vote of no confidence with respect to his commitment to the duties under Wisconsin statutes and to upholding the responsibilities of his role as municipal judge, and that the city formally requests his resignation. Hopefully, this will spur some action. Hopefully, we can have a meeting to discuss the things that the judge wants to tell us. I, for one, am interested in knowing and trying to better understand the problems, and the finger pointing has got to stop. We need to know who is responsible. All of us, none of us, or some of us. Let's correct what's wrong and move on and do this right so that we don't have to have this conversation again. It's real easy to avoid confrontation if you don't like what comes out of it. But we should not be doing that. We need to take this on. I'm sorry we have to move along with this type of action, but at any time, if the judge would want to meet with us, I'm sure we'd be willing to sit and listen to what he has to say. But for now, for me, there is no confidence in this system, and I assume some others here. We'll soon find out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion? We need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Alderman Every, second by Alderman Jurson.
Roll call vote, please.
Correct. Yes.
Sorry. I'm the one, or one of the ones who brought up the no confidence issue. However, I think that we have been working with the clerk. I've talked with Eric many times about how he's, I guess, not in charge of, but overseeing what goes on there. I'm afraid that to pursue this whole issue of no confidence and the judge's departure, given that we've beaten this thing to death, and the fact I'm not sure that that we would be benefiting ourselves if we further requested the judge's departure, and so I'm not for a no confidence. I reversed my position on the no confidence vote.
Call the question.
We have a motion to call the question. We have a second?
Second.
Second by,
Roll call vote, please.
And just for, yes, and it's a two-thirds vote. It takes two-thirds.
two-thirds
for the-
vote.
For the call the question motion to pass.
So we're calling for this is a motion to call it, to stop the discussion and go to it. Roll call, right? Roll call.
What are we voting on?
Yeah,
We're voting to see if we're going to go and vote on the question without
We
further
are going to
discussion.
vote on the question?
We're going to,
Before this discussion starts. This is just a drill, John.
it's been called for first and second.
What are we voting?
Clarify.
What am I
What are we voting?
To clarify, what you're voting on is to end discussion
And take the vote.
and take the
Take a
vote
vote.
with no more discussion.
No.
No.
I'm sorry, I still don't totally understand. Aye.
Aye.
Oh.
Aye.
So the discussion continues.
So the discussion. Ron,
I would like to ask the council here to have Jim Chilson contacted by phone. Joe Chilson.
Point of order, we're not talking about
not,
that. The issue is resolution of no confidence. That's what we're discussing.
we have to stick to what's on the agenda.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman? Sean, how do we get to the vote on back to the vote on the no confidence?
When the discussion ends.
If 4 people had voted yes to call the question, then we would have voted on.
We would have done that.
Then we would have voted on
Second,
this.
then you changed your vote the other way.
If,
Now you're-
and the other way is if no one has any more discussion, then we'll vote on it. So if there's no
Further
more
discussion,
discussion.
you wanted further discussion?
Away.
No, we're done? Okay.
So we're going to take a roll call.
Now we,
Restate the motion for everybody, so you know what we're voting on now. Now we are going to be voting on the resolution itself. The motion was made and seconded to approve the resolution, which is for a resolution of no confidence, Cooley Region Joint Municipal Court Judge. So you all know what we're voting on now, okay? Now we're ready with roll call?
roll call.
Okay. Alderperson Jurtson.
Voting against confidence of the judge.
Hold on. Are you voting
Aye.
for the resolution or against?
Aye.
Alderperson Olson.
No.
Alderperson Bertrand.
No.
Alderperson Muth.
Aye.
Alderperson Every.
Aye.
Alderperson Benash.
Hey,
So we voted in favor of no confidence.
4-2.
Tie vote.
It was 3-3, correct? Was it? Correct. It was 3-3, so it failed.
Because
Yeah.
you didn't have the.
So we moved to, so yeah, it was 3-3, correct?
Fails. Motion to adjourn.
Now we have the closed session.
No, not yet.
Motion to go into closed session.
Closed session, item 14, to consider a motion and to convene in closed session under section 19.85 subsection G of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, pertains to water damage at residents at 789 St. Paul Street, Onalaska, Wisconsin, and to consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85 subsection 1E of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public property, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This is consideration, development, and approval of negotiating strategy regarding Town of Madera fire contract. If any action is required in open session, the council will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and/or continue with the printed agenda.
Motion to go into close.
We have a motion by Alderman Olson to go into closed session.
Second.
Second by Harvey. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, roll call full. Here we go again. Roll call.
Alderperson Bertrand.
Aye.
Alderperson Jertson.
Aye.
Alderperson Muth.
Aye.
Alderperson Olson.
Aye.
Alderperson Benash.
aye?
Alderperson Every.
Aye.